All right, trying to find a PCM for my convertible. So this is the one I use to test startup. It looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 PCMs, and I have all the serial numbers read and what they came off of using my Autel scanner and HP tuners. I have an MPVI2, which I got off from Facebook Marketplace. I think it was a couple $100. Looks like I already paid for credits to unlock this one. So that's the one I'm gonna use, it's ready to go. This one's already unlocked. These I haven't paid for credits yet. So these three haven't been unlocked yet, but I could probably test them and see if they don't start. But this one's unlocked, this one's unlocked. This is the only one registered with credits. This one I bought already unlocked off of Marketplace. But here are my 6 PCMs. This is the one in my CUDA. Let's see. This is the one in my CUDA right now. It's out of a 2009 Dodge Challenger. Saved all the files as originals so I can register them after. It costs, I think, credits are $50 each, and each PCM needs 2. But that's what I'm doing. That one's already unlocked. We're gonna see if that fires up on the stand. This is my shorty wiring harness. We're gonna test that. I'm still making up the new short one for the convertible, but we're gonna test this PCM online on my stand first and see if it works. Okay, up in my upstairs garage working on this harness for the pace car. I don't know if I made a video on this wiring harness I took from the Charger when I got the extra car engine wiring harness out of an old Charger, but I actually had time to pull the other end of the C100 connector, and I just started opening up the wrapped wiring harness and pulled out as much as I could complete that went to the extra fuse box up in front. I wanted as much wire as I could get so that I wouldn't have to cut and splice and shrink wrap the wires I needed. So this was all the black and white connector. And then I started just cutting everything apart so I could take as much as I could. So the only part I couldn't get with any length was the ODB2. And so that's these here. And the gas pedal connector, or the gas pedal wires, complete without having to cut everything apart underneath the dash, just to get all the way to the gas pedal connector. So I did cut off the gas pedal connector at the other end, but you know, it's cut off of this main part. But this is the part I wanted to talk about. A lot of stuff from the black connector and the white connector are already wired to the C100. That's why I wanted to get this all complete. So now all I have to do is look up the loose wires that had to be cut so they know I know where they go. So, you know, look, all my ground wires are still connected to that ground lug. There's only a few extra wires out of this black connector that weren't used. And then here's the white connector. You know, these are the main, you know, the ASD supply and the injector, fuel injector and coil supply. You know, those wires go, already hooked some of those up. No, these are the trip wires for the relays that come from the white connector. So already have everything listed, which loose wires were and what they go to. So these look like they can all be pulled. And I wrote down, you know, starter control wire, you know, delete wires. Some of them are for the evap control. So almost all these get to be pulled, deleted. This here was for like an evap solenoid or something. That can be deleted. So the way I tested all these wires, you know, I put a meter lead on that end and with a continuity checker. And then I have a safety pin at this end, like I showed before, where I just stick it in there, one pin at a time if I have to find it. And then I write down where it went so I could verify, you know, off all my other lists, all the lists I have, where they go. So, you know, the simple stuff now, these are all the gas pedal ones I isolated. You know, one wire comes from the black connector. The rest of them come from the white connector here, the twisted app signals. And then the other wire that I pointed out before goes to the, you know, pin 12. I think it was pin 12, and then the orange of C20, pin C29 of the orange connector. It's this wire here that has to go through and come back out. So very simple. There's just a few I have to hook up to the relay, and a few that are going to be needed here. I already marked them all down. Like this, the ones that hook to the 12 volts, these are these guys. One's 12 volts constant hot, and one of them's the 12 volt switch wire, which turns everything on. Here's the yellow wire I'm always talking about to tell the PCM that you are about to start. That's the high-low signal I was showing. These other ones, let's see. You know, one of them goes to the gas pedal pin 6. Oh, I already have that one marked. Everything I know was from me verifying what was needed here so I could pull what I don't need. And it's more simple because you're using your engine wiring harness complete. And now I'm just going to make this little setup up and then talk to my gas pedal and my throttle body just to make sure my working PCM, this is the one that I already removed skim on, that I get my handshake and my throttle program so we can get the throttle follower set up, that test. All right, so I wanted to show you this harness because I don't think I talked about it before, but look at all the wires already run. It saves me a lot of time of splicing, soldering, you know, shortening. So I'm just gonna put it together like this first and maybe see if I need to shorten any of the wires up, or if I can just hide them all together, because this is all replaceable. This one side is gonna be inside the car with me, probably hidden underneath the carpet of the console, right under the center of the hump. So make your life easier if you find a charger. Remember that C100 connector, chop as much as you can because you're just under the hood. All this wiring was under the hood. Just see how much of it you can get. Save yourself some time, especially having to wire all these extra wires that are already connected between the C100, the black connector, white connector, right? All right, I've got all my wires hooked up that I needed to be run, like my power, my switch 12 volts. I've got this fuse panel with the fuel pump and ASD relays wired in. So now before I power it up, I've got my ODB2. Now before I power this thing up, I'm going to remove the pins that aren't needed, like I showed. Let's say this white connector, okay? Pin 9, 20, 10, 14, no, 14 I need for a brake switch if I'm running that. Don't actually need it. And this violet pin 35. This pin 37 goes to the fuel pump relay control board, control ground. Okay, so violet pin 35. So let's look here. These are all the wires I'm going to remove that I have marked on the diagram. So the purple one is here. That's supposed to go to pin 35. I verified that with my continuity tester, but in my other video I showed how to remove the pins out of this connector. So I'm just going to do one in case somebody wants to see it but doesn't want to have to find it in the other video. So what I do to get this apart, if it's not too brittle, usually you can get these apart. You might want to heat this up just to keep these little locks from breaking off. But the way I pry it off, I jam the screwdriver in between the separation line, which is right there. And then while I'm twisting to apply pressure, I reach in here underneath the clip, which is way down here. I've got it separated a little bit already. I'll just reach under the clip and just pry it up a little bit and do the side, pry it up a little while I'm twisting the parting line of the two connectors. And then once you lift it up high enough, it separates, and then you can take that cover off. Let me see if I can get this off with one hand. So you can get to the pins. All right, and this is what I showed in my other video. To get these pins out, let's say I need pin 35, okay? Remember on my other diagram in the beginning, I showed how to tell these pins and find them as to, this is 29 to 38 down at this end. Okay, so I'm looking for pin 35. If this is 38, 37, 36, 35. Okay, so what I do, you have to unlock. Remember, the pins are locked in here. So let's see if I can hold this down. You have to unlock the pins by flipping the lock, by just taking your little screwdriver and sliding this over like this. And that unlocks the pins, okay? Then, let me get my sewing needle. Okay, I had to get my little tripod so I could use two hands to show real quick how to remove these pins. So on my sheet here I have pin 35, okay? So we count backwards: 38, 37, 36, 35. Okay, in my other video, just so you don't have to look that up, you push your pin in. Let's see if you can see this. Let's get some light in here. You push your pin in, not in the hole, but next to the pin in this little slot. You push it against the side of the pin, and then when you pry it towards the pin, you keep pressure on it because you can feel the plastic releasing in there, and then I pull the wire out from the back. So let's see, here's the purple one, number 35. Come on, baby. Just like that. It's just a little hard because the other wires are up next to it, but it's one I won't be using. Up here, let me get it so you can see. All right, so there it is. You don't have to take this cap off because you can pull it straight out of the back if the other wires aren't keeping it in there. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to be removing the other ones I don't need. Sorry, it's out of focus. Pin 9, pin 20, pin 10. Okay, let's go to pin 20. I'll just show this one more time, just so you can see. It takes a little bit of a feel. Here's pin 20. These slots kind of face this way. The middle ones face each other. The outside, the top row and bottom row, the little slots face outward. So let's say with this one in the middle, pin 20, remember, so I'm putting the pin in the slot where I'm sliding the point of the pin down along the edge of the pin. And then down I can feel a little piece of the catch, the plastic catch. So now I'm going to bend it backwards. I can feel a little bit of pressure on that release. So now that I have that released, I take my pliers, make sure you're pulling pin 20. And let's get that out of there. Oh, it's not released all the way. Remember, you got to pull it against the pin. And while you're keeping pressure on it, pull that wire out like that. So the only reason I'm pulling these all out now before I power this thing up is because some of those wires come out to here and they're all loose. So I don't know what's hot and what might ground out and kill my PCM if I leave them in and they happen to touch something that's grounded, or if they're hot, or if they touch each other. So I'm going to yank all the wires I don't need, you know, especially like this evap control wire. 2 wires go in there. I'll just pull them from the other end because I don't want to have to untape this to pull them all the way out yet. I'm just going to unplug them from here so they're not into my PCM in case some of those pins are hot and it might kill my PCM. So let me continue. Just remember, after you pull those pins out, you will not get them out unless you unlock the latch. Okay, there's the latch. Make sure when you're done, you can't plug this back in to the PCM until you relatch the lock. Okay, so here's the lock. Just have to pull that back. Push that back in, or pull the opposite end out like this. Now they're all locked back in. So these would not release until you unlock it by pulling this side. And it clicks. And make sure you lock it back when you're done pulling your pins. All right, let me stop this and let me pull the rest of the pins out. I wanted to show that again real quick for the people that don't know how to pull the pins out or move them around if you need a wire in one of the holes that just happens not to be there and you need a pin in one of the holes. All right, I'm all done removing all the spare wires, putting it back together and ready to power this thing up to see if we get our handshake. Got my new wiring harness, or a spare wiring harness, plugged into the throttle body. No other sensors plugged in. Just my reader, PCM, start circuit. This is my on-off switch, which is my key switch on. Everything else is wired. Here's that yellow wire I'm always talking about that you've got to energize when you're telling the engine you're going to start. Used one of my homemade, it's just a fuse block with the 2 relay holders slid into the back. They all kind of hook together if you put them together, but this is my common setup, ASD, fuel pump relay, and the fuses. So 12 volts coming in, it's a big 30 amp. Switch 12 volts, which comes in from my ignition switch. It goes in, comes back out through that fuse right there, which is a 15 amp. And that wire going in is also powering the fuel pump relay. It's supplying the switch side, the coil side of the fuel pump relay to energize when it gets its ground from the PCM. So the ASD fuse, that's the output from the main relay, comes out of this fuse here. So if the ASD is dead, that's something I can check. 20 amp fuse, and then another 15 here for the fuel pump. All right, so that's those 4 fuses, protects all the circuits, and that's usually what I make up like that. 2 relays and fuses. Okay, so everything's just kind of pigtail here. So I have an ignition switch. As soon as I plug in my hot wire, this is my hot wire going into my main junction here, which supplies my ignition switch. Also supplies the 2 red wires and the fuel pump circuit. Okay, so, oh, it also supplies the power to my ODB2. So once I hook this red wire up to the battery, I should get a reader light right away. And there it is. It turns green, but this is now communicating. I should be able to use my phone app to talk to the PCM. That way I can test my yellow wire when I give it the start signal. So I'm going to hit the ignition switch, and let's see if I wired it up correctly. This should handshake. Oh, there it goes. All right, so that's telling me everything seems to be hooked up correctly here. All the spare wires are removed from here. This is kind of neat. I've got some spare wires I might want to keep for brake switches and things. So we're going to leave that. And this is a long video, so we're going to make this part 5. I guess it's part 3 or 5. We'll see. We'll name it in the title, but this one's long, so we'll just post this up there. And we're going to hook this up to the test stand now because everything looks like it's ready to go. And then if it runs my engine on the test stand, then it goes in the console of the convertible 71 Challenger pace car, and we see if that engine starts. Stay tuned. If you're going to use your starter relay controlled through the PCM, this is my yellow wire I'm always talking about that has tells the PCM I'm trying to start, so it starts activating everything. So here I am. This is pin 38 off the black connector. This is your starter relay control wire, which grounds the ground side of a relay in order to activate your starter. So you could hook it to your starter relay on one of the pins. One side has to be hot. This is going to be the ground side, which could be, your neutral start switch, which is a separate pin, by the way, neutral start, or your park switch, neutral or park. But with this, I guess it'll keep your relay from grinding if you hit start again. So when I add power to this yellow wire, which I'm always talking about. I think it's pin 30. The test light comes on. So that would activate a starter relay if you're going to use that. But then you'd probably need a third relay, unless you can use the one on the side of the apron in the engine compartment. But I'm just wanting to show that in case somebody wants to use a starter relay to control that's controlled by the PCM. Pin 38. Follow the wire, it goes right into the black connector. So it's pin 38. So everything else is pulled. On the video I just showed, it shows the two circuits, the two lines showing, you know, start, run, and starter. So that's what the video was I just posted. So here it is again. You can see the light coming on every time I energize that yellow wire. Okay, time to get this on the engine stand.